Massive line flips, blowouts, excuses. Just another normal day. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? It's me again, Golden Blue Dude, and if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. I do college football videos every single day, so whether you agree with me, want to talk trash with me, or talk trash to me, you're going to enjoy this channel. We all know that the Cotton Bowl was a blowout last night. They were missing their top 4 receivers, and Kyle Trask had a terrible night. Oklahoma blows out Florida 55-20. The weird thing is, Florida did have 518 offensive yards. Yes, Oklahoma had 684 themselves, but 500, that's a pretty good bit. And they out first downed Oklahoma 28-25. It's crazy, guys. Those interceptions were the difference. He was just not on the same page as those receivers. They didn't have the chemistry. He's used to throwing to those other guys. Then, of course, after the game, Dan Mullen says, we shouldn't have played. We knew better. We were missing key players, but these kids wanted to compete, so we decided to, but we shouldn't have played. I guess in a COVID year, you could say stuff like that, because, you know, a lot of teams opt out, players have to quarantine, bowls get canceled. In a regular season, this would be nuts. Speaking of ridiculous chaos, we all know in the Duke's Mayo Bowl, Wisconsin beat Wake Forest by 2 touchdowns in spite of being outgained by almost 300 yards. Well, it didn't stop there. After the game, during the locker room celebration, the quarterback Graham Mertz dropped the trophy and it shattered. Kind of makes sense. Their offense, terrible. So I guess he can't even hold a trophy. Well, he claims he fixed it and put a Duke's mayonnaise bottle to replace what he shattered. That doesn't look good. I like Duke's mayonnaise. I use it a lot myself, but it don't look good as a trophy. If I were you, I would really try to get whoever's the head of that trophy division to replace that. That looks terrible. Big games tomorrow on New Year's Day. The first game I want to talk about is the Peach Bowl between number 9 Georgia and number 8 Cincinnati. Georgia's 7-2, Cincinnati is 9-0. Georgia is favored by 7 points. The reason being is JT Daniels is starting to look great as a quarterback. On the year, he's 54 for 81. That's 66.7%. 9 touchdowns, just 1 interception. They have a decent running game as well. Talking about Georgia. Running back Zamir White, 133 carries for 740 yards, 10 touchdowns, 5.6 yards a carry. They will be facing, on the flip side, quarterback Desmond Ridder for Cincinnati, 162 for 244, 66.4%, thrown for 2,090 yards, 17 touchdowns, but 6 interceptions. And their running back Jared Dokes, 144 carries for 674 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 4.7 yards a carry. Running game, advantage Georgia. Passing game, I'd call it a wash. Maybe slight advantage for Georgia. On the year, Georgia averaged 421.3 offensive yards a game. That's 45th. They allowed 322.8 offensive yards a game. That's 14th. On the flip side, Cincinnati averaged 467.2 offensive yards a game. That's 20th. And have only allowed 310.8 offensive yards a game. That's 8th. So the defense is pretty close. Offensively, it looks like on paper Cincinnati has an edge, but those numbers don't take into consideration Sean Bennett, the fiasco that was before JT Daniels. On the year, Georgia averaged 33.2 points per game. That's 34th. Allowed 19.9 points per game. That's 18th. For Cincinnati, they scored 39.3 points per game. That's 15th. And they allowed just 16 points per game. That's 7th. I think this could be a lower scoring game than people realize. These are 2 good defenses. When the line first came out, it was a little lower than 7. I was going to lay it at the end. But at 7, right here, I think I would actually take the points. I think Georgia wins by no more than a touchdown. This is going to be a great game. And yes, I'm picking Georgia, but it doesn't mean that I don't think Cincinnati still isn't a playoff team. They had the resume. They did what they were supposed to do. I think they're still a playoff game. I just think Georgia is hot right now. And to be honest with you, I think Cincinnati would have given Alabama a better game than what Notre Dame will. I'll talk about that here in just a minute. But for right now, I say Georgia beats Cincinnati 34-30. The Citrus Bowl. This one's a mess, guys. We have Auburn 6-4 against number 14 Northwestern 6-2. Northwestern favored by 4. Auburn's quarterback Bo Nix, not a great year. 189 for 315, that's 60%, threw for 2,123 yards, 11 touchdowns, but 7 interceptions. But they do have a good running back. Tank Bigsby, 138 carries for 834 yards, 5 touchdowns, 6 yards a carry. Northwestern, they do not have a good offense. Quarterback Peyton Ramsey, 148 for 247, 59.9%, 1,442 yards on the year, 9 touchdowns, but 8 interceptions. Running back, not much better. Drake Anderson, 62 carries for 256 yards, 2 touchdowns, just 4.1 yards a carry. That's not good. On the year, Auburn has averaged 385 offensive yards a game. That's 75th. That's abysmal. And they've allowed 400.9 offensive yards a game. That's 60th. Also abysmal. For Northwestern, they've averaged 348.6 offensive yards a game. That's 99th. That's even worse. But at least they have a defense. They've allowed 338.8 offensive yards a game. That's 22nd. Auburn has averaged 25.7 points per game, 86th. Northwestern, 23.4 points per game, 99th. On the defensive side, Auburn's allowed 23.7 points per game, 36th. That's not terrible, but Northwestern has allowed 15.5 points per game. That's 5th. And Northwestern's defense looked really good against Ohio State. They did end up losing, but only by 12 points. I think Northwestern wins, and I think they win by more than 4 points. I think Auburn's offense is just not that good. Give me Northwestern. Low-scoring game, of course, 24-17. Moving on to the 2 playoff semifinals on New Year's Day. First up, the Rose Bowl. Number 4, Notre Dame, 10-1 against number 1, Alabama, 11-0. They are a 19.5-point favorite. Talking about Alabama, this is nuts. Let's look at Notre Dame. Quarterback Ian Book, on the year, 201 for 314, 64%, threw for 2,601 yards, 15 touchdowns, just 2 interceptions. He takes care of the ball. He'll be going against quarterback Mike Brown for Alabama, 250 for 327, 76.5%. That is accurate. 3,739 yards, 32 touchdowns, just 4 interceptions. Let's look at the running back battle. Running back Kyrene Williams for Notre Dame, 195 carries for 1,061 yards, 12 touchdowns, 5.4 yards a carry. Not bad. The running back for Alabama, Najee Harris, 214 carries for 1,262 yards, 24 touchdowns, 5.9 yards a carry. So a little bit better there. And oh yeah, Alabama has wide receiver Devontae Smith, 98 receptions for 1,511 yards, 17 touchdowns. Alabama has 3 legit players that are Heisman worthy in my opinion. On the year, Notre Dame has averaged 455.2 offensive yards a game. That's 22nd. Not bad. And have allowed 335.1 offensive yards a game. That's 20th. Not bad, but I don't think that's playoff numbers. For Alabama, they've averaged 543.9 offensive yards a game. That's number 5, but have allowed 351.9 offensive yards a game. That's 31st. That's not terrible, but it shows you Alabama is more of an offensive team this year. On the year, Notre Dame's averaged 35.2 points per game. That's 21st. And have allowed 18.6 points per game. That's 14th. That's more like it. But for Alabama, they average 49.7 points per game, number 2 in the nation, and have allowed 19.5 points per game. That's number 17th. I think Florida inflated that number, so I think Alabama actually might have the same type of defense as Notre Dame as far as caliber. Notre Dame still might have just a little bit better, but far and away, Alabama does have the much better offense. But as far as a spread pick, I'm going to have to take those 19.5 points. It might be out of sheer hope, just hoping that it's not a 20-point blowout. I'm going to say Alabama wins by 18. So close, but not quite cover. I'm going to say Alabama 49, Notre Dame 31. Still a blowout, but don't cover the line. I'm hoping that it's not that big of a blowout. I think the other playoff semifinal is going to be just a little bit more competitive. We have number 3, Ohio State, who's 6-0, against number 2, Clemson, who's 10-1. Clemson is only a 7.5-point favorite. Thought it would be a little higher. Quarterback Justin Fields for Ohio State, 119 for 164. That's 72.6%. Pretty accurate. 1,521 yards, 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He was doing great the first 4 games. Then against Northwestern and Indiana, not so good. He'll be going against quarterback Trevor Lawrence of Clemson, 198 for 286, 69.2%, 2,753 yards, 22 touchdowns, just 4 interceptions. So he cut way back on interceptions. He has less interceptions than Justin Fields, and he's played more games. Running back Trey Sermon for Ohio State, 84 carries, 675 yards, 3 touchdowns, 8 yards a carry. That's the guy you're going to have to watch out for on Ohio State's offense. And yes, Justin Fields. But we all forget about the running back for Clemson, Travis Etienne, 158 carries for 882 yards, 13 touchdowns, 5.6 yards a carry. So he is having a down year, but still a good year. On the year, Ohio State's averaged 529.2 offensive yards a game. That's number 6. Clemson has averaged 507.6 offensive yards a game. That's number 10. Really close. Ohio State's defense, they've allowed 358 offensive yards a game. That's 34th. That's not terrible. Clemson, however, has allowed just 298.5 offensive yards a game. That's number 6. That's under 300 a game. That is good, my friends. Ohio State has averaged 42.5 points per game. That's number 9 in the nation. Clemson, 44.9 points per game. That's number 3. Ohio State has allowed 21 points per game. That's 26. That's not great. Clemson has allowed only 17.5 points per game. That's number 11. I'm looking across the board. Clemson has the advantage in every area. The only thing is, offensive coordinator Tony Elliott will not be calling the plays because of COVID protocols. Will that affect it? I think it will. But I think the sheer talent that Clemson has on offense and the fact that their defense is at 100%, that's the big one. Their defense. I think Clemson wins this game, and I think Clemson wins it by at least 10 points. I'm going to go Clemson 38-28. They win by 10, but it will never really be in doubt. It'll be Ohio State trying to catch up. They only lose by 10, but if you watch the game, it'll be Clemson all the way. That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you on my next show.